Hey, what's good everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So I haven't uploaded in quite some time, but work has been pretty busy, and also last weekend was a holiday here in the US, so I did take some time off for that. But we're still on Master Classic right now, and although it is coming to an end for the first split, we are going to be getting another 2 weeks of it down the line in Season 8 of GBL. So I'm going to go over this team. It's been a while since I played these sets, but I think it's been over a week or so, but I really wanted to try this team out because it started getting very popular at the beginning of the split when people were looking for kind of some comfortable teams with the recent changes. So here we have Giratina Double Steel. So you guys know how much I love Excadrill, and then also combining that with the Giratina Melmetal core just made a lot of sense to be able to play this team. And the Steel types right now are in a pretty good spot because there are a lot of Dragon Tail users, and of course with the lack of charge move pressure coming out of those Dragon Tail users, it makes the two Steels in the back here the perfect guardian for Giratina Origin. So there are some core pickers for this team, of course, probably some pretty rare ones, but Mamoswine does give this team a ton of trouble, and then the occasional Obstagoon is, of course, very likely to sweep your entire team unless you find a way to deal with it immediately. So let's go take a look in this battles. I did a 4-1 set here, just a very quick set here just to test the team out and get a better feel for it, but let's get into the battles. Alright, so getting into the first battle against Sato 858-525. And you can see here I'm about 2500 elo, so it's been quite some time since I played these battles. And I'm picking up a lead against the Ho-Oh with Giratina, which is very good. You obviously can't have Excadrill go up against Ho-Oh. And I'm going to throw here on 7 Shadow Claws here, making sure that my opponent does not get the extra Incinerate through. And if my opponent tanks this, I'll be in a very good spot, only needing one more shield before throwing an Ominous Wind. Do get the free Shadow Claw through, gonna shield this up, of course. Brave Bird is gonna hurt Giratina Origin quite a bit. I'm gonna stay in here, but my opponent decides to swap out into Dialga. So about this matchup here, this is a very interesting one because if you're the Excadrill player, you can actually come out of here with a ton of energy if you manage this. I usually prefer to play it in 2 ways. You can see here, I'm charging up straight to the drill run, and the reason I'm doing this is because in the event that the Dialga doesn't shield, you can actually mud-shot it down before it gets to a Draco Meteor, assuming that you swap fast enough. But if your opponent shields, this is a situation where I'm gonna have to shield and basically farm to a bunch of energy. So my opponent does smartly decide to go for the Draco Meteor here. This is 11 seconds, so of course I have to respect that, and I'm going to go ahead and shield this up. And of course it is the Draco Meteor, but because of that I can now farm to 100 energy on Excadrill before throwing the next drill run, and this puts me in a pretty good situation. I'm about 4 mud shots away from the next Rock Slide, which means that if the Ho-Oh comes back in, I can actually get to it. So here, luckily my opponent does not sneak and Incinerate through, so it's very fortunate for me, and that puts me into a position where I'm just 4 mud shots away from the next Rock Slide. So gonna go and I'm gonna beat it right there, being able to hit the Rock Slide, and this is gonna KO the Ho-Oh. So I now have Giratina and Melmetal, a pretty complementary core against what's in the back, but unfortunately they have an Yveltal. So I'm gonna instantly swap in my Melmetal. I cannot at that health range get to a Rock Slide on Excadrill, so effectively it is pretty useless here, and I'm gonna have to go for a Rock Slide. Now this Focus Blast is gonna hurt, but what I want to do with this Melmetal here is, just in case, I'm going to force my opponent to throw the Focus Blast, of course, and I'm going to get all this Thunder Shock damage in as well. So if it was the other way around, my opponent could actually comfortably farm down my Giratina Origin. So now I can bring in the Origin, and although Yveltal is a Dark type and it's going to be resisting a lot of the moves, the good thing is that Shadow Ball still does quite a chunk here, 27% or so to an Yveltal, IV dependent. And I'm going to go ahead and beat it to the Shadow Ball because I do have some residual energy from the Ho-Oh matchup. So kind of a close one right there, very, very tricky matchup, but able to take it in the end. Okay, and our second battle is up against Haggis McDuke, and I'm going to be leading Giratina Origin into a Melmetal. So again, a favorable matchup, and obviously we're not going to be swapping any of our Steels into a Melmetal with loaded energy that they can just superpower and bail. So kind of makes sense to stay in, and I was actually expecting my opponent to swap out, but what this is telling me is that there's probably something in the back that's also weak to Origin, so gotta be taking that into account, but I'm going to go straight for the Shadow Ball here, and there's really no reason for the Melmetal to shield. I think their goal is really just to get me as low as possible. And the Shadow Ball is going to do quite a chunk of damage here, and my opponent is almost in Ominous Wind range, but I think I'm going to be safe here and go for the second Shadow Ball. You will beat the Melmetal in this case. It takes just 14 Shadow Claws to get to the next one, so no reason to really throw the Ominous Wind here and risk taking another charge move. So going to go for the Shadow Ball here. and my opponent elects to not shield and is going to bring in probably their harder counter here, and it is an Yveltal. So gonna safe switch into the Melmetal, and I was building up some energy here, and my opponent throws right away. So this is a Dark Pulse, and it's not going to KO the Melmetal, of course, no reason to shield, and I'm expecting them to swap out. So and here they bring in a Mewtwo, which this is a pretty good scenario for us, and with all the energy that I've retained, can chunk this Mewtwo quite a bit before having any other issues here. So just going to go for straight up Rock Slide spams, and this Mewtwo has to actually get to more than a Side Strike to KO us. So this is a really good scenario for us, and I'm just going to keep spamming away at these charge moves. Of course, we have the second steal in the back. So my opponent throws directly on 5, and this is a great situation because I don't have to shield this either. And gonna make it up to the Rock Slide. And if my opponent shields here, this is a great situation, and I'm not going to shield anything, of course. Going to have the Origin to deal with the Mewtwo as well. And turns out my opponent was just sacrificing it, but you think you're done with the steal, we got another steal in the back for you. So going to go for the Rock Slide here, and it takes 2 Rock Slides to KO from Excadrill, and also we're going to be able to outpace it based on the Dark Pulses here. And here, I'm actually making a mistake here. I would definitely recommend shielding because Excadrill is quite squishy, and I get a little bit worried here because this actually does put me in a situation where I can get snarled down, but not before making it to 2 more Rock Slides. So this is not the worst situation, but probably in future cases I would be using my shields as well. So definitely going to shield this one up. And I'm only 3 mud shots away from the next Rock Slide, so I need to fast move to null if I can to be able to get this move off, and we do. So once again, Giratina Origin still has some health in the back, and we're going to be utilizing that to come back in and be able to take this Yveltal down. So once again, Giratina Origin, Yveltal counter confirmed. Definitely played the match a little bit more sloppy than I should have, but overall, though, this Yveltal is not going to reach another charge move. I almost go for the ominous win there, but again, that is a very poor move, so I didn't know if it was going to KO the Yveltal there or not. Much safer to go for the Shadow Ball here, knowing that my opponent just threw a charge move, so GG's. Our third match of the set is up against Jack, and we're going to be leading a Giratina Origin into a Dialga. So this is something that you really don't want to see, so we have to bail to our Melmetal to execute the strategy. So we're going to go ahead and go into Melmetal, and my opponent is going to respond by bringing in a Kyogre. So this is definitely what you want to see in this particular scenario. Kyogre just absolutely crushes Excadrill, so very nice to see it come out here. And because of the energy advantage that I had, my opponent kind of took a while to switch out. This actually gives me a good opportunity that I can potentially force a shield. So I'm going to try to time my fast move as good as possible. And this way with no extra waterfall sneak in, and my opponent does shield here, so I'm already pretty happy with this one, and I'm just going to continue to spam out Rock Slides before I faint. And because the Kyogre actually used Surf here, this means that he's not going to get to a Blizzard in time against my Giratina Origin, so I can come in and safely absorb all that energy, leaving Excadrill to potentially sweep in the back. So I'm going to go for the Rock Slide here, and I actually made a mistake here. Probably should have gone for Superpower. I wasn't going to reach another move, and I would rather be debuffed and get farmed down a lot faster, so should be taking that as a mental note here. And of course, this is just a Surf, bringing back in the Giratina Origin, and I'm going to be able to Shadow Claw the entire way down. So I'm expecting the Dialga to come back in, but my opponent actually sends in Togekiss, so I am going to go for the Shadow Ball here, mainly because if I just swap into Excadrill here, you know, my opponent probably will stay in and deal a huge chunk of damage to it. And actually, because of how squishy Excadrill is, the Charms and the Dragon Breaths are actually going to add up. So I'm going to swap back in the Excadrill. My opponent is forced to bring back in the Dialga. And again, I'm going to go straight for the draw run. My opponent doesn't shield this time, which means that I'm just going to use one shield, commit to a farm down, get to double Rock Slides, be able to KO the Togekiss. So once again, this is why I throw very early. And now, because my opponent has used Iron Head, if he doesn't get to another move, you know, it takes 8.5 seconds to get there, I can just mud shot all the way down, and I'm just going to go for double Rock Slide, and this should end the game. And I think my opponent here just decides to let it go, knowing that he can't possibly reach a charge move on Togekiss to be able to threaten the health. So really well played, and by my opponent right there. You know, obviously you have to swap in your Kyogre in that situation, but the entire backline right there was very weak to Excadrill and our second Steel type. Alright, so getting into the fourth battle of the set up against AK0790, and this match was a pretty big disaster for me. So here I tried to swap into my Melmetal, but I accidentally clicked on the Excadrill, and my opponent does have the Kyogre in the back. So very tough situation for us right here. Excadrill can only reach one charge move against Kyogre, so this is definitely not the Pokemon that you want to swap into. And here, Gonna barely reach the drill run, but unfortunately the fast move damage does register on that second turn, so not gonna be able to get there. And in this case, because my opponent has built up quite a bit of energy, I need to respect the Blizzard here in case Giratina becomes useful. So and my opponent actually surf baits, so it does a really good job right there. I'm going to farm up as much energy as I can and throw the Ominous Wind right before they get to the real Blizzard. So my opponent's already just outplaying us and also punishing us as much as possible, so have to try to get some value out of this Giratina. The Togekiss is going to come back in. I am going to have to throw the Shadow Ball and then defer the Charm onto my Melmetal. So because my opponent shields here though, this puts me in a pretty decent situation, but my opponent has their own Melmetal in the back, and now we're going to play some Melmetal mind games. So kind of evaluating the situation here, I choose to go straight for the superpowers. I'm not expecting my opponent to shield at all in this case, because a double debuff Melmetal, which is what is kind of required to take out the enemy Melmetal, the Togekiss can actually come in and have a pretty good time against it. So I'm going to go for 2 superpowers here, almost KO the opponent, and here my opponent has back-to-back charge moves, and I have to call the first one. So if this is a superpower, I just lose on the spot, but my opponent does go for the Rock Slide, which means that I can actually Thunder Shock down this Melmetal by investing a shield. Now, of course, my opponent's going to save the shield for the Togekiss, and I have some energy, but my Melmetal is actually gonna be double debuffed at this point. So I make a really bad play here. I choose to swap back into my Giratina to try to reset the debuff, and I should have actually gauged how much charm damage it was going to do initially. And kind of thinking about the play, this was not a very smart one, because even if I get a charge move off here against Giratina, I'm not scared of the charge move damage, right? It's not the flamethrower or the ancient power that's going to KO, it's going to be the charm damage itself. So despite coming back in with Melmetal, a fresh one, my opponent is actually going to reach the flamethrower here and going to be able to KO me. So a lot of mistakes in that match. You know, again, I just play the lines. I'm not saying I play these perfectly, but unfortunately right there, not only did I swap into the wrong Pokemon, also kind of executed that endgame incorrectly. So I felt like there was a chance to win right there. I would have needed another 2 Rock Slides on Melmetal though, so not really sure if I could have gotten there in time. We might have lost that game anyways, but really well played to the opponent, and GG's. Alright, in the 5th and final match of the set, we're going up against Jackie 1986, and this matchup is really interesting because we get a Giratina altered lead. So this is kind of a bad matchup for everyone on the team, because the bulkiness of altered form is going to be able to outpace the Giratina origin, and it's going to be able to take it down. So I'm going to take the first Dragon Claw here, and I'm going to go straight for the Shadow Ball. And my opponent actually surprises me by swapping out. So I'm going to bring in my Excadrill here, of course. We know the plan, throw the drill run right away, see what they do. And if my opponent decides to shield here, of course, we'll be able to punish with a lot of energy after 1 shield as well. So I'm going to go for the drill run here. My opponent opts not to shield, which is great. And I'm going to be able to mud shot down this Dialga here. So this is an Iron Head. It can only be an Iron Head. No reason to shield. And I'm still in a kind of a tricky spot because my Origin has taken enough damage right now, and I need to determine if there is a Kyogre in the back or if there's a Togekiss in the back. Right now I'm kind of leaning towards Togekiss in the back because otherwise they wouldn't aggressively swap to Dialga, but in the event that it's a Kyogre and I bring in my Origin again to answer this altered, kind of in a tricky spot here because then, you know, even in the 2 shields, it's a really close matchup against Melmetal. So as I'm thinking about it here, I'm going to opt to bring in the Melmetal and do kind of a litmus test, right? So you don't need too much health on a fully buffed Melmetal to be able to take out Togekiss, but you do need some health if you want to take out a Kyogre with Giratina Origin. So I'm going to bring in the Melmetal here, actually catch the Dragon Claw, which is very nice. I think my opponent was anticipating the Origin coming back in, and I'm going to go for Rock Slides here. So if my opponent decides to shield, then it's going to tell me that something in the back is potentially weak to it, right? So I'm going to go for the Rock Slide here, and my opponent does shield. So right now, definitely leaning towards Togekiss, and I'm going to choose to match the shield on the Shadow Sneak here. So again, you just want some health against Togekiss, and you need to be able to preserve it long enough to see what happens here. So I'm going to go for the Rock Slide once again, and I have energy banked on my Origin form. So if my opponent decides to shield here again, or if it gets low enough, I'm actually going to bring in the Origin form, and I'm going to try to snipe it down with an Ominous Wind. So in this particular scenario here, the reason I do it here is because from this particular position, even if you're a Kyogre, I can still win, and I actually get the boost here on Origin. So it's good that they had a Togekiss. They probably would have lost this game anyways. So kind of no hard feelings right here from my opponent here. But I do go for the Shadow Ball here. A buff Shadow Ball does knock out the Togekiss, and we're going to be able to Shadow Claw down the Origin. So yeah, kind of a tricky situation. If that was going to be a Kyogre in the back and we brought in the Origin form, probably would have had a really rough time down the road against Melmetal against Kyogre, but had to kind of do some litmus testing right there to figure out exactly what was there. But luckily it was Togekiss, and of course, you know, Double Steel definitely going to be able to punish a Dialga and Togekiss backline. So GG's and well played. Alright, so these matches were quite some time ago, but it did land us in the 2600s after that 4-1 set. And of course, we're still on the up and up for our climb towards Legend in Season 8 in Master Classic. So once again, Giratina Origin, very, very solid line. You guys can see it has a very standard game flow pattern, and it might be a pretty good choice for Go Battle Knight as well, as these matches are going very quickly. So if you like this content, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next Master Classic video.